Hey everybody, this is Steve Riley from LA Guns, and you're listening to Glam Metal Interview Series.
Welcome to the Glam Metal Interview Series, presented by RockMusicStar.com, with host Thomas S. Orwat Jr.
Hey Glam Metal heads, it's Thomas with episode number 4 of the Glam Metal Interview Series, presented by RockMusicStar.com. For this episode, recorded on July 7th, 2020, we circle back to the LA Guns Steve Riley camp for an interview with Steve Riley. Steve gives us a great interview in which he talks about, first, Ringo Starr, who is celebrating his 80th birthday today, the new LA Guns single Well-Oiled Machine, Steve's time in the band Wasp, and much, much more. So here he is, everyone, Steve Riley of LA Guns. We are on the phone with a legend, Steve Riley from LA Guns. Steve, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, brother. Good to be on your show.
Well, thank you very much. Steve, before we start talking about LA Guns and your career, I want to just go right into talking about Ringo Starr, who turned 80 years old today. What can you tell us about Ringo Starr? Why do you think he was such a unique drummer, and how did he inspire you?
Oh man, he inspired me big time. You know, I'm a little bit older than some of the guys in the band, and I started playing drums when I was like about 5 years old. So I started playing drums before the Beatles actually came out or came over to America. But when my sister brought home the first Beatles album, I was just totally bowled over by it with it, listening to it with her, and then seeing Ringo on the Ed Sullivan Show with that big Ludwig drum kit. You know, it was just, and that's what the drums I played all my life. It's Ludwig, and he is just a huge influence on my entire life, and he is such an underrated drummer that I don't think people realize it too. You know, you don't have all those hit songs without a really good drummer playing behind it. And Ringo is one of the best rock drummers ever. And him turning 80 years old, still being alive and still being vital and doing it, it's just a big inspiration. And I big props to Ringo Starr.
Yeah, absolutely. 80 years old. That's incredible, and he's still doing it. God bless him.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Amazing.
All right, Steve. Let's talk about LA Guns. Your version of LA Guns, you just recently put out a new single called Well-Oiled Machine. Great song. It seems like it's getting some really good feedback from your fans. Can you tell us a little bit about that song in particular? Who wrote it? What the process was like for that song?
Yeah, you know, that song, Well-Oiled Machine, is one of the songs that Kelly Nichols brought in when we started doing pre-production for Renegades, the album. And it was, he had just started writing it, and he had put it down on like kind of a really kind of a weird tape situation too. So we did a 2-month pre-production over the internet, because everybody lives all over the country, and we were trading ideas and songs that we were sitting on. Kelly just wrote that song. I mean, it was so brand new, and it was in its barest form, and he's such a great songwriter, Kelly Nichols. You know, he wrote Ballad of Jane and a lot of the big stuff from the early days of the band. And when he brought in Well-Oiled Machine, it was, like I said, in the barest form, a skeleton of a song. And he said, listen, I really, really want to try this for the album. And a lot of the other stuff was already put together, and it was, we had been exchanging songs for a couple months and putting them together over the internet. And that song wasn't even completed, but the gist of the song was there. And I am so glad we did it. It just came out great. It's a great ball breaker song, too. And it was a great follow-up to Crawl, which was another one of the songs that Kelly brought in. So Kelly brought in some really good material for this Renegades album. And Well-Oiled is one of the songs he brought in.
Yeah, well, he had like 20 years to write these songs, so I mean, he did have some time on his hands to do
Yeah,
that.
but you want to know what's weird about that, bro? Is that he had some other material that he might have been sitting on, but this was like a brand new idea. It was something that he just pulled out of the air and started working on, and he sent it to us. And like I said, it was in its barest form. It wasn't even completed, but we knew what it was all about and how it was going to be put together. And then the four of us put our touches on it, and it just came together really good.
Yeah, and you mentioned Crawl, of course. I mean, that song is pretty incredible. I mean, that was a song that the first song by this version of LA Guns, and a lot of people, realized that you guys were very serious after they heard that first single, Crawl.
Oh yeah, man! I'm so happy with that song too. And like I said, that's another one of Kelly's compositions, and he that too. He brought in Well Oiled and Crawl, and those weren't songs that he was sitting on for a lot of years. They were songs that he specifically wrote for this album, and both of them came in their barest forms, like and just of a gist of an idea, and then once we finished them, they just turned out great. And like I said, Kelly's just an underrated songwriter. He writes really, really good material.
Yeah. Now, the Renegades record, you guys finished recording that quite a while ago, like in the beginning of the year, correct?
Yeah, we were very lucky, bro. We were thinking about recording it this year. We were all ready to do it last year at the end of last year, but we were thinking, hey, maybe we'll do it in 2020 and spend a little bit more time on it. And we were just so lucky that we went in, we bared down, we put the songs together, and we had done that M3 show, and things really snowballed from there. We got a big management with New Breed Management, and then New Breed brought us the Golden Robot, and then we did this thing. And so from us doing the May show in 2019 of M3, we were in the studio 5 months later doing Renegades. So we recorded it in November and we mixed it early December, and it was ready to be packaged in early January before all the virus set in. So we were so fortunate. If we had to put it off and said we were going to do it this year, we would have been screwed.
Yeah. Now, has the record release date been delayed because of COVID-19, or is it just something that you guys are what? I mean, what's the deal with the release date? Because, like I said, it was
Yeah.
recorded a while ago.
Yeah, you know what the deal is that we were going to release Crawl as the first single, and then we were maybe going to release another single. But while we were out on tour, we had dates booked from really like March all the way through, and obviously we're like with everybody else, all our dates got either postponed or pushed back. So once this virus set in and we realized that we couldn't tour, and that even the dates that I got sitting in front of me that start in August, they're being moved all over the place. Some are for next year now, and some are really even dodgy about whether we'll be able to pull them off. So once we knew that this virus had set in, we went into a different mode, and we decided that we could release 3 singles before we released the full album. And then in 2020, this year, we would have something to work with the whole year. We wouldn't have been able to go out on tour. So we're able to release about 2 or 3 singles. And now the album's slated to be released this fall. It should have been out already because we would have been out doing dates. But when we realized that the dates were all not going to happen and everything was postponed or even just canceled, that we could do this a different way and give our fans a little bit throughout the whole year, and then release the whole album in fall, and it will be like a holiday album going into Thanksgiving and Christmas. But yeah, all of our plans, not just LA Guns, all of the bands, everybody's plans went up in smoke. We had to go into a different mode. So that's where we're at right now. We've got Crawl out, Well-Oiled Machine now, and we might even release a third single before we release the full album in the fall. And we're just so glad we got it done because, wow, we would be just sitting around right now.
Yeah. So what are you doing besides promoting the LA Guns release? What else are you working on right now? Is there anything else? Any other projects you're doing? Musical projects, movie projects, anything like that?
Yes, I do. You know, it's funny because I did a couple of things over the last couple of years. In 2017, I started working on a documentary that I was going to put together, and it's about all of the grunge singers from Seattle dying. All of those nine of those big singers, they all passed away. And I started working on a documentary, and I'm in full swing with that right now with a production company. And I hope to maybe put something together by the end of the year. The whole story and storyboard is all down, and I've been working on that documentary. And I also, on a fluke, got to work on a movie that was a friend of mine was doing. And at first, he wanted to just me to submit a couple of songs for the movie, which I did, and they're going to be on the movie. And they're two songs that LA Guns are not doing, and it's called Rightful, and it's a full on big movie. And they asked me to fly out. This is last year. They asked me to fly out to New Orleans and have a part in the movie. It's not a big part, but it's a part in the movie. And I had never shot a movie before, but I did a screen test for them, and they really wanted me to do it. And so I flew out and did that. So that's also being put together and should be out by the end of the year. So I've got a couple of things I've been working on outside of LA Guns, but really, you know, with LA Guns, I've just been doing what everybody else has been doing. I've been buttoned down and trying to follow the protocols and just try not to get sick and staying in and just working out of the house right now. And so I'm lucky that I've been working on this documentary, and right now we got a tentative title called Lost Boys, and it's how a generation lost their voice, and it's all about the 9 singers, Lane Staley, all of them. Yeah. And I had been working on that on my own, and then a production company wanted me to present it to them, and they really liked it. So we're trying to put that whole thing together, and I'm waiting to see how this Rightful movie turns out and how I look on screen, because I never did a movie before. So I met the 2 scenes that I shot, made the movie. The 2 songs that I submitted, they're in the movie too. So that was kind of cool.
Wow, that is very cool. Were you a big fan of the grunge movement?
Yeah, I'm a SAG member now too from doing the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had to go over and do the reading where they all sit around the table over at the SAG office, and last year over on Sunset, and we did the reading with the whole cast, and it was a gas. I had never done anything like that before, and I thought I was just going to submit the 2 songs, and I got to get a part in the movie. They flew me out to New Orleans to shoot the scenes. It was pretty cool.
Wow. I want to go back to the beginning of 2017 when Phil Lewis decided to leave your version of LA Guns.
Mm-hmm.
What was that time like for you personally, having Phil leave and then ultimately having Michael Grant leave? What was your mindset when all that was happening?
Well, you know, I've already been tempered to it, bro, because, you know, I'm the only guy in the band that just kept going with the band, whether it was with Tracy alone, whether it was Phil alone with me, or with the classic lineup. I'm the only one. I'm the longest tenured member. So wasn't it really even like Phil decided to leave my version of LA Guns? He left LA Guns to go do some shows with Tracy. So, you know, they weren't even calling that thing. They were calling it Phil Lewis and Tracy Guns. So this has always been LA Guns in my mind. The band that I'm in, that I've kept going for all of these years. because I've always done the business for the band and always made things happen. That's the way it happened in '87. The original guys wanted me to run all the business and put the whole machine together with management and agency, everything. So from '87 on, I've been running all of the business, signing the record deals, everything. So when one classic member or two classic members would leave, I just kept the band going. So when Phil decided to leave, and Michael went with him too. And Michael had been with us for about 3 years at that point. And when they decided to leave and go do shows with Tracy, they weren't going to do another LA Guns. That happened after the fact that they decided to call it LA Guns. So what I did was I called Kelly Nichols up, and I just didn't put my head down. And like I did when Tracy left or when Kelly and Mick left, I just kept going, and I said, I'm going to move forward on this. And so I called Kelly Nichols up, and we had been best friends through the whole thing, even when he was out of the band. And him and I are brothers, rhythm section, so we're really close. And I called him, and I knew he was a great songwriter. And I said, Kelly, you want to do this? And we'll start by doing maybe a couple of live shows and see what happens with the people that we decide to play with. And he said, absolutely, I want to do it. He actually wanted to rejoin the band when we were doing Hollywood Forever in 2012. Oh, wow. And I wanted him to rejoin, and Phil didn't. So for one reason or another, he didn't join the band. I don't think Phil wanted it to happen. And so when this happened with Phil leaving, of course it's disappointing. When any of the classic members left, I always pretty much tried to talk them out of it and say, come on, don't leave. This is a good thing we have going. And like I said, I kept my head down and just said, I'm moving on. I'm moving on with LA Guns because I own half the name, and I've been running the business, and I'm the connection to all of the people that we do business with. So when I called Kelly, of course, like I said, I was disappointed that they were leaving. I tried to talk them out of it, and they were adamant that they wanted to go do these shows. And so I just called Kelly, and we started up right then. We started up with material. We got Scotty Griffin, who was playing bass, but he's really a lead guitar player. That's what he really plays. And he only played bass for us because it was a good gig to go out and make some money and tour. But I called Scotty up, and then we found Kurt Frohlich, and we didn't even audition any singers. He was the first guy that I called and actually did any rehearsing with was Kurt. And so I just kept mulling forward, bro. I didn't even break a sweat over it. I figured, like, I'm just going to keep moving forward. And when Kelly said he wanted to do it, we asked Mick Cripps to do it too, but Mick is doing The Brutalist. That's a band that he's been doing with a couple of members from the London Choir Boys, and he's been doing that for a bunch of years now. And Mick is a great friend of me and Kelly's, and he said he would love to do it, but he's right in the middle of doing the Brutalist tour, and they got an album out. So, when Kelly said he wanted to do it, we just moved forward, bro, and that's what I've been doing non-stop ever since '95 when Kelly and Mick and Phil left, and me and Tracy went on for 7 years alone with some new members, with Jizzy and a bunch of other people. And then Tracy left, and me and Phil went on for another 15, 16 years without Tracy. So, that's my mode. I don't break stride, and I just kept moving forward. So I felt like they quit LA Guns and they went to go do some shows with Tracy, and then they started calling that LA Guns. So, there's always been a lot of confusion ever since Tracy started the second LA Guns. When me and Phil were out in 2007, he started the second LA Guns after that Pride to Destruction thing. So there's always been confusion there, and we're like a bunch of the other bands that there's confusion, but never did I even break stride. I just called Kelly up and we moved on with LA Guns.
Yeah. I read some things that Phil Lewis said that the reason that he left was because he felt that he was frustrated because, he couldn't get you to agree to record another record. Is there any truth to that?
No, does that sound right to anybody? Because I'm the only one who kept putting record deals together. And the fact of it is that I always told Phil that we should go in and record. And he was the one who didn't want to do it. There's a lot of stuff that gets twisted in there. And, I'm the one that put together all of the albums with Andy Johns. We did 4 in a row with Andy Johns. We did the Cleopatra albums. We did the one with Ralph from Ralph Sens, who's, in that, what the hell's name of this band? But anyways, we did a bunch of albums that I put together, and I put the whole scene together. And I was always into recording, and that's why you could see as soon as I got Kelly back, we went right into the studio. So there's really no truth to that. He was just looking at maybe a good money day by doing a show with Tracy, a few shows. And when he walked out the door, he said, "Hey, listen, I'll be back in 6 months because I don't know how long I'm going to be able to put up with Tracy because he's crazy." He said that to me because those two don't get along. And right. I don't think people realize that, but maybe a lot of people do because of the press that they did against each other. They blasted each other in the press for over 15, 16 years. And I was surprised that he wanted to go do those shows, but it was really a money grab. He wanted to go make some money with Tracy, and they got a couple of good offers, and he was out the door that fast after doing 15, 16 years with them. And I was just disappointed, but I just had to just barrel on. But there's no truth to that. I'm always ready to record with any members that are with LA Guns. I'm always ready to put the deal together, go get the record deal, get the studios, set up the schedules. That's all I do. I do all of that stuff. So no truth in that I didn't want to record. And he also blasted my drum playing. He said Kelly could never play. He said a lot of shit in the press, and it was stuff that he was hoping that we would counter and say a bunch of shit about him, but we're not into that. Kelly and I, that's not our game.
Yeah, you guys seem to be taking the high road on that.
Yeah, man, we don't want to get into that crazy shit on the internet about saying bad shit about anything. The only thing I will say is that there was some false stuff in there about me not wanting to record. That was totally out of left field. And when I read that or somebody told me that, I was like, man, I'm always ready to record. That's why Renegades came together so fast.
Yeah. When was the last time that you were really on good terms with Tracy?
Oh, well, he really severed ties with me and Phil in 2002. We had recorded Waking the Dead and with Andy Johns.
Great record.
And it came out so good. We were so happy with it, the three of us. And we had a big world tour set up with Alice Cooper, and we were on the same label, Spitfire Records, with Alice, and so we were going to do the full world tour, start over in Europe and then come over to North America with them. And we had this great album recorded with Andy Johns producing it, Waking the Dead, and he just broke the news that he's leaving the band. And he just severed ties with me and Phil real fast in the middle of the tour that we were doing before the Waking the Dead album came out. And he just split on us. And it was a real bad split too. Me and Phil, we had to really regroup at that point because we lost that Cooper tour because of when he saw the band being unstable. I don't blame him too. Him and his manager said, "Wait a minute, we got to take somebody else out." So we kind of lost that world tour, and it was a bad split with me and Phil and Tracy leaving us, and that's why Phil blasted Tracy in the press for 15 years for quitting the band that quick and to going to do Brides. And that was really my last contact with Tracy, man, back then in 2002. Wow. And so I went on for like 15 years, like I said, with Phil. We did like 4 or 5 albums, and we toured all over the world for crazy, like touring too. And so, you know, that's the funny thing about this. He can't stand that guy. I know he can't. Kelly knows it too. So does Mick. We know that those two guys don't get along, and they're doing this thing together, and they're putting up a brave face, and good luck to them, whatever they're doing, because, like I said, we're not going to get into any mudslinging, but it's just a funny situation that he blasted Tracy for 15 years and then walked out and did this thing with them. It's crazy. But like I said, on the way out the door, he said, I'll be back in 6 months. I'm just going to do these shows. And I was like, oh, whatever, man. He goes, yeah, no, really. He goes, I don't know how long I'll be able to deal with this guy. But it's lasted longer than that, and they're dealing with each other, and good luck to them. Whatever is good for them, that's cool, whatever.
Yeah, during our last few minutes of the interview, I just want to discuss your time in Wasp. That lineup that you were in Wasp is, I consider, one of the greatest bands in like rock history. That was such a powerful band. What was it like being in Wasp at that time? And you guys went on a tour with Metallica also. What was that tour like?
Oh man, that was tremendous. It was I had done the Keel album, The Right to Rock, and I was going to become a full member, but I recorded the full album with them, The Right to Rock, and with Gene Simmons, and we were on A&M Records. And right before I was about to sign in on the band, after I recorded all of my drum tracks, I got a call from Blackie, and he said, you know, we're getting ready to leave. Do you want to do this with us? And they were with the Iron Maiden people too, so they had this big machine around them and this full world tour booked, and it was Wasp. They had this amazing thing going on, and so I had to make a tough call and leave Keel right before the album was done, but my drum tracks were already done. I had recorded the whole album, but I had to make a tough call, and I joined Wasp, which ended up being the right call, you know, in retrospect. It was the right call I made to join Wasp. And our first tour that we did, we went over to Europe. That's that Live at the Lyceum show that you see. That was like me being in the band after like 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. And we did that Live at the Lyceum show, and then went all the way through Europe and Japan. And then we came back to the States, and we had this tour booked, and it was all large clubs and theaters, and it was with us and Metallica and Armored Saints.
Yep.
And that was a blazing tour, because Metallica was just, they had, their album was really doing well too. Wasp's first album was doing great, and Armored Saint was doing good too. So wherever we went, the three bands were just tearing it up, and it was just a really, really good tour that I will never forget. I've done much bigger tours since then, and bigger, like, you know, In the Round with Def Leppard, and big tours with Iron Maiden and shit. But that tour with Metallica was a really, really special thing in my career, because it was just something that was just so powerful with Wasp and Metallica together. It was just crazy.
Yeah, wow. That I remember that back in '85, and it was quite the show. I mean, I still think about it all like 35 years later. I mean, it was so big.
Oh yeah, it was a terrific show, and they, like I said, they were just really starting to break out big, Metallica, and so wasn't Wasp, and so we were packing all these theaters and these really large clubs, you know, 1,500 seat clubs, and it was just wall to wall sweat and just people just going off, and it was crazy.
Right. All right. Well, Steve, I want to thank you for your time. A great interview. I'll catch up with you again, and we'll do a part 2 if that's all right.
Absolutely, brother. I'd love to do that. I appreciate your support. I just want to say that anybody wants to find out, because I know there's so much info all over the place about dates and everything. If they want to find out about LA Guns dates, just go to laguns.net and you can find out the latest where dates are moving around. There's a bunch of fun stuff there too with merch and shit. But yeah, laguns.net, and I appreciate your support, brother, and just be safe during these times, okay?
Yeah, you as well, Steve. Thank you again.
Okay, I'll talk to you later, brother. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This concludes our interview with Steve Riley of LA Guns. Thank you for listening. And please remember to check out my site, rockmusicstar.com and glammetal.com, to hear all of our Glam Metal interview series interviews. And a big thank you to Eric Roebner of the Buffalo Award-winning band Nerds Gone Wild for providing our theme music.